The Orphan Trains, a movement to house orphan children, 1854 to 1929. Beginning in the 1830s, an influx of immigrants led to an estimated 10 to 30,000 homeless children. From 1830 to 1920, the population of New York City soared from a mere half a million to over 5 million by 1920. In the 1900s, Ellis Island was accepting over 2,000 immigrants a day. New York City was unprepared for this large influx of immigrants. For this reason, housing was swiftly and poorly constructed, causing injuries and health issues. Because of the high population, sickness spread quickly, killing many and leaving many children orphaned. Another factor adding to the high number of orphans was job conditions. Jobs at the time were dangerous, dirty, and low paying. Many working adults were killed, either by injury, sickness, or starvation. Welfare programs in the 1850s were hard to qualify for. Any help poor families received came from wealthy and private charities. Many of the orphanages were overcrowded and unsafe. Some held as many as 2,000 children and were woefully understaffed. In 1850, a man named Charles Brace moved to New York City to attend seminary school. He was shocked to see the number of orphan children filling the streets. Charles founded the Children's Aid Society with the mission of sending these vagrant youth to good families. Unfortunately, Charles did not accept all children into his program. He only accepted children who were attractive, able-bodied, and had a mostly Anglo-American appearance. As a result, children of color, older children, and children with disabilities were left to the streets. Charles began an experiment with the orphan children. From 1852 to 1853, the Children's Aid Society took children and sent them across the U.S. in trains. The first experimental orphan train took place on October 1st, carrying 45 children from New York to Dowagiac, Michigan. The children were chaperoned by an agent working for the Children's Aid Society, who presented them to a waiting audience. The children took the stage one by one, gave out their names, ages, and any skill they possessed. Some even sang songs and read poetry. After 1 week, all but 8 of the children had been purchased. The remaining 8 were sent to an orphanage in Iowa. Charles and his counterparts considered this experiment to be a success, leading to the founding of the Orphan Trains. Over the next 75 years, orphan children were shipped across the country. Most trains carried 20 to 30 children a car. The states who purchased the most children were those in high need of laborers, including Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois. Most children who were purchased were forced into an agreement of indenture, meaning they had to work for their care. Although some lucky children were specially chosen by wealthy families to be given a normal childhood. None of these children were told where they were going or why. They were separated from any remaining family they had and encouraged to cut contact completely. When the children first boarded the planes, up until they were adopted, they were under the care of an adoption agent. These agents would do their best to look after them and see to their placement. Often, the children were brought to auction-like events. At this time, though, adoption agents were in short supply. Because of this, there was not a vetting process or a way to choose good homes for the children. This led to many children being lost or placed in abusive households. While the orphan trains provided many children with the opportunity for a better life, the program received extreme criticism. While the program's mission was to give these children new homes and opportunities, the system had significant flaws. Many of the children put on trains were taken without their parents' consent. Many of them assumed to be orphans when they were not. Some parents were told their children would be put into temporary care when they were actually being shipped across the country to new families. These issues led to many lawsuits being filed against the Children's Aid Society. In 1912, the U.S. Children's Bureau was established. This program's mission was to alleviate the factors that led to orphan children. The foster care system was also beginning to gain traction, with more success than it had had in the past. A few years later, the number of orphan trains began to rapidly decline. This was due to many families settling and new child protection laws being passed. One of these new laws prohibited placement of children across state lines. Abolitionists were speaking out against the orphan trains, saying the program supported child slavery, and pro-slavery advocates complained the orphan trains were making slavery obsolete. As the local and state government involvement increased, the need for orphan trains finally came to an end. The last orphan train made its journey in 1929. The orphan trains were controversial with both negative and positive consequences. The program was largely considered a success by the public. Today, the orphan trains are remembered in books, museums, and family stories, often with a mix of gratitude and regret. This time in American history is a great example of efforts made to address societal issues, but also highlight the challenges of humanitarian initiatives.